Tonight on The Edge, her life came to an end as a random act of gun violence in Pontiac. Now the man believed to have killed 16-year-old Desiree Childs has been officially charged in her death.
And as Fox 2's Jessica Dupnack reports, it does not appear he acted alone.
From the accused killer's house, you can see a vigil splayed out for 16-year-old Desiree Childs, gunned down while walking with a friend in her Pontiac neighborhood last month. Federal court documents reveal a witness told sheriff's deputies after Desiree was shot in the chest and leg, 3 males ran from the direction of gunfire over to check on her, then left, 2 jumping in an SUV, leaving her there to die.
A teenage girl, murdered. Absolutely having nothing to do with these individuals.
On Tuesday, 10 days after the killing, 32-year-old Kanique Lawrence charged with open murder. Ballistics connect evidence outside of Lawrence's home to evidence at the crime scene that you can see from his house. Another suspect emerged in the case, 27-year-old Jamil Tanzil, catching unrelated federal gun charges Monday. Federal court documents in that gun case show potential evidence Tanzil was also involved in Desiree's murder. He did admit to investigators being near the crime scene the night of the murder, but he says he was not involved in the shooting.
Potentially, there could be more people involved than 2 or 3. So, we're looking into all of those circumstances. That's where we're asking for the public's help.
Sheriff Michael Bouchard says cracking cases like these highlight the potential fallout in a city like Pontiac.
And a small number of people commit a large number of crimes statistically across the country. And if you can take those violent offenders off the street for a significant period, you do, in fact, make people safer in their communities and lower crime rates.
But Sheriff says Desiree's family knows all too well one shooting is one too many. We talked to Desiree's mom, Nicole Todd, by phone. Nicole says her daughter had a beautiful life. Our lives now will never be the same, but she will never be forgotten. You heard the sheriff. They're looking for 2, possibly even more suspects connected to this murder. That is why they're still looking for tips. They're asking folks to speak up. Jessica Dupnack on The Edge.
Well, for family members, a Detroit receiving hospital nurse, Patrice Miller, emotions are raw. Today, they came face to face with the ex-boyfriend who abducted her from her workplace and then killed her.
And during today's sentencing, the victim's grandmother said she wanted to say more, but it wouldn't be appropriate for public.
I don't understand you. What kind of person are you? Where you come from? Who couldn't even support you right now? You talking about you loved her? How could you love a person and you took her life? How? Is that love? Is that really love? How would you like somebody do that to your mama or your sister? Huh? You think they would like it?
Jameer Miller sat in a mask and didn't show any emotion during today's court hearing. His attorney read a statement acknowledging remorse.
Despite your words of sorrow today, sorrow for yourself, Mr. Miller, there are plenty of people in this courtroom who believe that you should be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Because Miller was offered a plea deal, the judge could not hand down a sentence of life behind bars without parole. The 36-year-old was sentenced to 35 to 60 years in prison.
He was just a great guy, great person, comes from a great family.
And a plea deal in the death of Fraser High School teacher Brooke Lynn Denise Charles is now facing 5 to 15 years in prison for striking and killing 23-year-old Connor McMan while he was changing a tire on I-94. It happened back in June. Charles ran from the scene and was also found to be under the influence.
Knowing the number of lives that Connor impacted in such a positive way, and for that to be snuffed out in an instant, and which is what it was, an instant, by, well, let's just say that it doesn't seem fair.
Thousands of dollars in scholarship money have been raised in Connor's name to help keep his memory alive. Charles will be sentenced in January. Well, breaking news tonight, the U.S. House voting to censure Michigan Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib over her comments on the Israel and Hamas war.
The Democrat, who is the only Palestinian American in Congress, gave an emotional speech on the House floor ahead of the vote.
My grandmother like all Palestinians, just wants to live her life with freedom and human dignity we all deserve. Speaking up to save lives, Mr. Chair, no matter faith, no matter ethnicity, should not be controversial in this chamber.
We will remember.
House Republicans accused Tlaib of anti-Semitism, and members of both parties have also taken issue with her use of a Palestinian phrase.
When she chants from the river to the sea, she believes it. She believes Israel should be eradicated, because otherwise you would never, ever repeat that vile statement.
Tlaib is now just the 26th representative to be censured in the U.S. House's history. A censure is a formal statement showing the chamber's disapproval of a member. It is one step below expulsion. Israeli forces step up their attacks in northern Gaza in what's expected to be a long and bloody fight for Gaza City. Israel is turning up the pressure on Hamas, disrupting the terrorists' command and control, eliminating dozens of commanders, blocking tunnels, and softening the ground. It's the first time in decades Israel is fighting in the heart of Gaza.
It's been 30 days. Every day is like eternity to me.
American families with hostages in Gaza meet with lawmakers on Capitol Hill, urging world leaders to do more for their release. At least 4 people have been released so far, 2 Americans and 2 Israelis. Some 240 hostages remain. The Biden administration says it's been working with Qatari negotiators to secure the safe return of hostages.
Tonight, our local Jewish community held a vigil for those who are still being held hostage by Hamas.
Fox 2's Dave Kinchin takes us to the event in Farmington Hills.
An emotional gathering of Metro Detroit's Jewish community on this, the 30th day of the Israel-Hamas war. More than 240 Israeli hostages honored with their pictures on empty chairs, lifted up in prayer at the Bring Them Home community vigil for the hostages at Adat Shalom Synagogue in Farmington Hills.
We're at a moment in time in Jewish history that begs unapologetic clarity and leadership.
They heard from Shimon Levy, who lives in Metro Detroit and just got home from serving in the Israeli Defense Forces. He told of the horrors he saw and a warning it may be disturbing for some viewers.
I could talk about the anguish and pain of walking the destruction and carnage left by Hamas ISIS terrorists a few days after that dark Saturday when it was still raw, unfiltered, and very real, where I saw firsthand the bodies, the pieces, the blood, the bullet-filled cars, burnt structures, RPG holes, helicopter shells, scorched earth, and the horrible, horrible smell of gunpowder, burn, and corpses.
And then there's Aya, a former teacher near Gaza who is very close to several hostages.
I have a personal connection to 23 people who were taken. I know personally 8 of the kids. These are peace-loving people. These are people that have names and have families.
And the organizers of this vigil say millions of dollars have been raised in recent days to support the families and the community in this traumatic time. In fact, organizers of the vigil say this has been especially poignant, the 30th day of this crisis in the Middle East, because they say there are certain prayers in the Jewish faith that are recited every day for 30 days during traumatic events such as this one. In Farmington Hills, Dave Kinchin on The Edge.
Turning to the weather now, you know, we could see some rain coming up tomorrow.
Yes, and we're going to check in, though, with Rich Luderman, because we're hearing there's a nice stretch of weather coming after that.
Yes, we have some rain in the forecast tomorrow. Then beyond that, dry weather right into the weekend. Here's our next weather system over the western Great Lakes. Some rain and some snow. We do not have snow in our forecast, but we're going to see clouds thicken for the rest of tonight. How about live pictures from Sault Ste. Marie? You can see a freighter right in the locks as we speak. Pretty cool, 28 degrees, kind of chilly up there. But the big story is cooler numbers over the last 24 hours. Some spots in Michigan down more than 25 degrees. So today's high 58, that was set after midnight. Averages 52 and 37. You'll see the numbers right now, all falling. 43 in Detroit, 41 in Howe. Chilly up there in Lapeer, 36. The flow is turning more to the north and east, and that's going to drag in drier air for the rest of tonight. But tomorrow we will likely see occasional rain showers for Wednesday afternoon and for Wednesday evening with our next system. I'm going to stop the animation close to 7 o'clock, and you can see showers crossing all of lower Michigan. And then by Thursday, this system is long gone, and it sets up a nice dry stretch into the weekend. For the rest of tonight, thickening clouds, cool and dry. For tomorrow, 49, cloudy, breezy, occasional showers, not an all-day soaker. And then right there is the 7-day. It does turn cooler for the weekend, but it looks dry with some sunshine. We'll check it again at 4 a.m. Root, back to you.
All right, Rich, thanks so much. There was a grill, there was a fire, and then there was a stabbing, and it was all caught on video at Mount Clemens. We're told 60-year-old Mark Wallace was out barbecuing when he was approached by a neighbor. There was a feud about a cooler on a toilet. When the neighbor kicked over the grill, that's when police say Wallace stabbed him. And it didn't end there. The neighbor's moped tires also got slashed. The victim's injuries were not life-threatening. Wallace was charged with assault with intent to murder and destruction of property.
A South African band's success has led them to the Motor City for a concert, but sadly, the show couldn't go on.
Someone stole their gear, forcing them to cancel their show at the shelter. Fox 2's Dave Spencer with that story tonight.
A musician from South Africa, known for his music mashups pairing animals and humans, in the midst of a national tour with his band, The Kiffness, as a stop in the Motor City.
We arrived in Detroit last night and parked our van in a secure parking.
Only to discover on Tuesday,
our van, along with 5 other cars, had been broken into, and unfortunately, quite a lot of gear got taken.
$5 grand worth of guitars and other instruments.
Maybe if anyone's watching this, they've seen someone walking down the street with a guitar or a ukulele, and yeah, maybe we can get it back in time.
And just as they were taking inventory, this happens.
And another guy came along and, you know, tried to start taking merch out of the car, and he asked our merch guy for the keys to the car. So he ran away, managed to get hold of the police, and the police detained that guy.
Detroit police did confirm they made an arrest, but also said it's an active and open investigation. With all of this going on, the Kiffness says they decided to cancel their Detroit show,
which is devastating for the fans. Obviously, we're really looking forward to it. But yeah, these things happen.
But they are willing to not let this first impression of Detroit be a lasting one.
I'll definitely be back. Yeah, I think you can't judge a place by, you know, one separate incident. And you know, from what I've seen, it's a beautiful city, and hope to be back, hopefully under better circumstances.
Dave Spencer on The Edge.